Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are the Owatonna School Board. This is Monday. It's the 26th of April, 5:30. I'll call the meeting to order, and Eric is going to give us an update on our attendance.
All board members and student rep are present.
Terrific. Let's all rise and join in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up tonight would be to approve the agenda. We'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved. Second.
We have both a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for tonight's mission moment.
Very good. Sarah, do you have the mouse? Can you pull that up for us, please? Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the board, tonight it's my honor as part of our mission moment to honor two people who have just gone way over and above the call of duty to make things work for us this winter. Mr. Ochterkirk, our activities director, and Nancy Benson, his executive assistant, whom I would say is the CBO, clearly the brains of the operation in the activities office. I couldn't be more happy and pleased to lift them up tonight. Really, when we think about safe and caring community, to think about all of the protocols that had to be reestablished for our students to engage in activities over the past fall and winter, especially with having indoor sports, the rescheduling, the monitoring of people coming in, ticket sale changes, you name it. And, you know, I'm very proud to report to our board that we really went without incident. With our teams. Here and there, we might have had a game or two that we missed or practices, but it was really due to the diligence of these two folks that were coordinating with coaches all of the time to make sure that we had the right protocols in place. And when there was a protocol and we had a situation where we had to resolve it, it was taken care of immediately. It's just the organizational leadership as well as just the overall leadership and providing a real clear framework for our coaches and advisors to work within that made this work. We're not out of the woods yet because we've got 6 weeks or 8 weeks of competition left with our high school teams. Being outdoors helps us this spring, but I really just wanted to lift up to the board our activities department and these two individuals specifically because without their leadership, we just don't have those same opportunities for our students. I can't thank you enough for all of your work and all of the efforts that you put in. And I think our community should be very proud of the fact that they have two individuals like yourself that care so much about our students and our coaches and our staff and our families that we put these protocols in place and we really spent and still spend long hours trying to make sure that they're taken care of. So thank you very much for all of your work. And board members, I would open up any questions or comments you'd like to make as well.
Oh gosh, I would be quick to ratify everything that has just been said. And these two are some of the very earliest people that I met when I came on the board and was making the rounds with the various schools, and just among the best that Owatonna has to offer. Thank you for being here.
Can I say a few things? Well, I just thank you, Mr. Elstad and Mr. Steinberg and the rest of the board for highlighting what Nancy and I do. I first would say also that I second your motion as far as clearly the brains of the organization and the muscle. Mm-hmm. Nancy is truly a partner in the office with me, and we basically do everything together from scheduling officials to workers. You know, I think that's where a big thank you goes to all of our coaches and advisors. A lot of you see what they've been able to do or have to do to provide opportunities for our kids. There's been a lot of hurdles, a lot of obstacles that we had to go through, and our coaches and advisors still go through to provide those opportunities for our kids. And sometimes we get you know, not to anyone's fault, just to exposures or with COVID, and we've had a few teams that had to put on pause for a little bit, or some of our student athletes had to go on pause, or our kids in activities. But our coaches persevered, our advisors persevered. We had all of our teams be able to finish their seasons, finish their competitions, and we've been quite successful this winter. And obviously with just this last weekend, our speech team having two individuals finish 6th and 7th in the state speech meet. We had 4 individuals compete in it, and that was virtual all year. So to be able to pull all this off is amazing. But it is true that without your support, without our community support, there's no way this is possible. Owatonna Live, Scott Lindbergh, with being able to live stream all our events this winter was amazing. And the feedback that we get from that is incredible. So, you know, it certainly is a team effort across the board. So we're grateful to have the support from all of you, and our community is tremendous. And for the most part, our parents and our students were understanding. You know, obviously there's some issues where people have a hard time grasping, and they want their kids to be in school, in activities, because we want our kids to be doing this stuff. So it is frustrating when that stuff kind of gets taken away due to exposures or whatever the case might be, but they would understand. You know, some hard conversations, but we're getting through it. I think we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, I hope. But our kids are outside, our activities are moving, so we're excited to keep going forward.
This is a one-off, but as long as you're here, can you give us the quick update? Spring activities had a recent change.
With the
Regards
masks.
to masks.
Yes, so
Can you bring us up to speed on that?
yeah, so now our athletes, all of our spring athletes can compete. As long as you're on the competition field, you can compete without a mask. So that includes track and field too. So if I'm waiting to get in the 100, I have to have my mask on. But as soon as I'm gonna step in to compete, I can take my mask off, run my race, throw my implement, whatever the case might be, and then my mask is back on. If I'm gonna step on the baseball field, as soon as we go out, mask can come off. And then as soon as you go to the dugout, whatever the case might be, then masks are on. So that includes practices and competition. And I just came out with officials guidance today, which we sent to a bunch of our main official groups and our signers. So officials can officiate without a mask during competition as well. So if you start seeing this is okay. You know, if you're at a track meets, officials, like Mr. Ellis said the other night, you were helping out our JV track meet. Yep. You would be able to be out there without a mask on. Since you're an official, you're judging. Yep. But then when you're done officiating, you went off to the side, you'd be required to wear your mask. Sure. So that was a nice change for our kids and our officials for that matter, being outside. So far the mask has been nice because it keeps you warm. But it starts heating up, it can be a little bit different story outside. So. But yeah, that is the latest.
Thank you. Didn't mean to take away the recognition.
No, it's okay. It's great. I mean, it's you know, and for a while there in the winter, it was changing daily, weekly. I mean, it was sometimes hourly, where we'd get an update and then say, oh, it's changing. It's, you know, so it was a matter of just being very nimble. So
That's all I have. As part of our gift to you this evening, we have the highly coveted hashtag Owatonna Proud t-shirt for you. For you, I think that one will work. This one may need a little sizing adjustment, Mr. Kirk.
Is that a medium? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yep.
See you at lacrosse.
As we move on for item 5, which is public forum, I've come to under the understanding that there is nothing that had been submitted. I'll look over at Sarah one more time. Nothing submitted for public forum. And then as we move on to reports, Mr. Elstad is going to take a seat over on the other side. Just makes it easier for all of us to see him and vice versa.
Thank you. So tonight, again, the agenda is fairly light, but I wanted to bring you up to speed as to where we were at. If you recall, back in early winter, we investigated the idea of thinking about our strategic roadmap as a district. We're about 3 years in, and it's time to reinvestigate kind of where we're at. You add up a global pandemic on top of that, and it's time for us to really take a deeper look. And so just kind of the 30,000-foot overview for you would be we're working with Teamworks International. What I'm going to share with you right now is kind of a timeline of activities that have been completed thus far. The board necessarily hasn't been a big part of this, or hasn't been really any part of this yet, because a lot of it has been really working with stakeholders. But hang on to your hat, because we're headed into some board work that will begin this summer, where you're going to be spending more than a few hours with this as you start to formulate what the strategic roadmap will look like. Furthermore, then what that does is it helps me as a superintendent and administratively, what does the operational plan look like that supports that roadmap? And so I'm going to walk you back. Our first meeting was back in February, where we met with the leadership team and we just talked about how we would be designing this process specifically for Owatonna Owatonna Public Schools. On March 9th, we pulled together the strategic planning team, which is about 30 people from our district, and that includes support staff, teaching staff, administrators, you name it. We've got a kind of a nice smattering of staff that are available for that. In addition to that, we also added about 15 to 20 community members to this very first meeting. And what we were doing there is building something called a story wall, because every school district has a story. And it tells and informs the board about where we've been and where we're headed. And so they did a really great activity where they kind of broke us up into different decades. What decades, or when did you start with the district and what decade? Because that helped to design a little bit more about what the story of that decade was. And then we talked about different phases within initiatives. So we talked about what things were kind of new at that time and what things were leaving the district. So it was kind of a nice exchange within and handoff from different decades. So we started back in those staff that had really started during the 1980s from the community and staff perspective, and really now some of our newest hires that have been hired within the last year or two were part of that as well, so that they could talk about what they see as part of their story starting in the Owatonna Public Schools. Within that, again, it identifies and honors the district history because we do have a robust history. Some things we're very proud of in our history, some things we're not so proud of. And so it's about how do we understand how history impacts the decisions that have been made and how we've evolved as a school district. And then the next session was something we do called the environmental scan, and that happened just in late March, where we basically took a look at some of the baselines about what's our current reality as a school district. And what that relates to is they talk about what things that are well established. So these are the practices and things that we know to be true for a district. We talk about those things that are ebbing, which means what's sort of leaving us right now. So just to give you an idea as to maybe one of the thoughts around that, the idea of making paper copies in a classroom is ebbing. We're just simply not using a lot of paper anymore because we are moving to more digital means, which means then what is emerging, things like online textbooks, our Google format that we've been using, Edgenuity that you heard about our last one, which is more of a platform of offering coursework, particularly for our secondary kids. So again, those are the things that are emerging. And then the other thing is, what are we on the edge of considering? You know, what are some things that we've talked a little bit about as a school district that we might be looking at? Owatonna Online. We're on the edge of that. Even though we've established it from a sense of we've got board approval and we're starting to get that off the ground, it's still an edge item for us because we just don't know what the next year is going to hold for us in that regard. And then we kind of look at the whole system view as analysis because all of these systems within the district need to work together. But it's important for us to clearly understand where historically and where we're at with things that were ebbing all the way to things that are still emerging for us. Our next session that we actually had to postpone in April, we were going to do some work, but we're coming back. Here we go. April 28th, we're going to do two things. So we're talking right now with really some stakeholder engagement. So we did some surveys of parents, staff, and students in our district. So a survey was sent to all of our staff members. We sent it to all of our parents. We actually had nearly 700 responses from our parents. And we also then took a dive with our students to offer some feedback about their experiences. What we're building here is a real baseline for what we call our desired daily experience. So we asked some clear questions for our students. What about your experience in the Owatonna Public Schools would you want to hang on to? What things should we maybe think about throwing out? And what things, furthermore, would you like to see possible? Then you take that same data and you cross-reference it with parents and staff. And you start to really develop some trends around what is the desired daily experience for our students here from different perspectives. So once we've collected that, which we have, the next step actually comes this Wednesday is our next strategic planning team meeting. And we'll be reviewing and developing that kind of desired daily experience, and also then starts to create a clear vision for the strategic plan. Now, we're not going back and redoing our vision and all of those things, because those are things that have been very established. In fact, one of the things that I was very proud to hear from the surveys as well as our staff when we did that story wall was when we went to inspiring excellence every learner every day, and then also the work we've done with sort of rebranding the work we're doing as a district. Those were things that our staff saw that is emerging for us that we want to continue with. And what's important for us. Our commitments around equity and 21st century learning and high quality teaching and learning and safe and caring community, those things really don't change for us. But sometimes the work within that will change, and that's what we're going to discover and move forward with later. So again, we're developing that desired daily experience. What will happen though now is we're going to start revising some of our strategic directives based upon the feedback. And so now is when we start to pull all of that together so that on May 5th we pull together some leadership teams, because whenever you establish this new roadmap and also the operational plan, all of that operational plan should work within one system together. So if a building leadership team should not be doing things that are a one-off or a two-off from what the district has said as part of the desired daily experience. So when you take that kind of whole of the desired daily experience and you're looking at the building level, what is it that buildings are doing to make sure that they're delivering on what we said we were going to do? So it really helps to kind of align the practices across all of our buildings in the district. And then the last thing there would be is on May 19th, we're going to do a 3-hour session on input and refining of it. And we're going to start drafting what they call a classroom theory of action. You'll learn all about that, about really how now are we linking the work of the strategic roadmap to the classroom. Because the whole notion behind this is classroom to boardroom are very much aligned with one another. So the work that you're supporting as a board is carried out in the classroom. Now, here's where we start to talk more with our board about the work, and this is a couple of things that we're going to do. So on either June 8th or 10th, we're working through that. There'll be a full day session that kind of wraps up the work of the strategic planning team. So we're going to start building what we call a district vision card, which looks very much like our dashboard, but with a couple of nuanced changes that better matches that desired daily experience and what we told the public our deliverables want it to be. And then we'll do a 3-year operational plan. So we start linking that roadmap with key district initiatives, school projects that are going to need our continuous improvement for the next 3 years. And then some reflection and refinement, as well as key messages about community feedback. Now on June 28th is when you get involved as a school board. So now we're taking all of that information that's been put together, the desired daily experience, the theory of action, how it links to the boardroom, and now what you're going to come back to is review that as a board to say, does that still match our core values? Does it still match what we said we were going to give as far as a mission statement? But does it also give us some strategic direction as a board? So that as you're making decisions moving forward, all of your decisions are clearly linked to what you said or what we told the community, what the community told us was the desired daily experience. So that will be a short session. It will be incorporated within our June 28th school board meeting, and that will be working with the 2 consultants from TeamWorks. The next part then where the board is really as part of our work session in July, you'll be doing some final refinement of that to a point where on July 12th, we would have a work session to have this discussion, and then the next part would be as a short regular meeting for you to consider approval of the new strategic roadmap in July. Once we're done with that in July and based upon your approval, if you remember on Wednesday, August 11th, we have a full day board retreat planned. And right now I have 2 things planned for that day. In the morning, we're going to be spending some time with Dr. Gustafson and with Dr. Rasmussen, really continuing our work and study as a school board around race and courageous conversations around race and equity for our school district. The afternoon part of this from 12:30 to 3:30 will really be developing the details around your key work as a board. And how do we link that to in parallel to the operational plan, talk about policy development, all of the pieces that go in that really help you as a board in your level of governance around the strategic roadmap. And setting clear targets, like setting clear targets for the superintendent about what you expect me within the next year to work towards accomplishing as part of the roadmap. So then we talked too about how we're going to engage the public in this and kind of keep them aware using our vision card. But also the board, what is your role in self-governance with that? How are we holding each other accountable on the school board, or as you holding each other accountable in the school board, to making sure that we go back to what we said we were going to deliver to our community. So again, it's all part of alignment and transparency with our community about exactly where we're headed. And the last part will be in fall. That isn't set yet, but it'll be sometime September, October, where you'll be talking about how are we going to assess and refine our work so that we have a clear cadence about how we're going to measure this, when we're going to look at this and review it, so that when we come back, you have an idea as to how we're going to govern that strategic roadmap and the operational plan for the next 3 years. So, I just went on a lot about that. I'd like to open it up for questions you might have. This is really critical to the work of our school district. And while I know when you hear the word strategic plan, some people shudder and say it's just going to be another 3-ring binder that we put on the shelf. This is an entirely different experience because we want to make sure transparently that we are doing our level best, both as a board and the level of governance that you have, but the operational plan that administratively we carry out with our staff to deliver what we said we were going to deliver to our community, and based upon that desired daily experience. So again, I will pause and open up for questions or clarifications I can make with this.
Teamworks International, that educational consulting, is that what they do?
Yes. So we have a couple of consultants, both of which, by the way, had different levels of experience between being school administration as well as business administration. So it's a nice kind of unique tie there. Teamworks works almost exclusively with school districts. And this process is something you might recall a name. In fact, those of you that have been on the board for a while would recall the name Dennis Cheesebrow. Dennis actually is the founder of Teamworks International. And they've evolved this process. And quite honestly, a lot of these pieces really started to make more sense when we started to look at the evolution of education and the forced evolution of education based on the pandemic. And so we're one of many school districts that are sort of doubling down on what has changed and how do we respond to that so we deliver to the community what we said we were going to do. So yeah, long-winded answer for you, yes, they're educational consultants.
So the roadmap, I assume that that's kind of a high-level direction. But when you go into the operational aspect of it, are you taking into consideration the potential financial impact that may be affecting you?
Yes, that's a great question, Nikki. In fact, what I would add to that is, as we have to look at long-term financial strategy for the district, as long-term as we can be, which isn't in education very long at all, but it's as long as we can be, at least for the next biennium, it helps the school board and the finance committee of the board to really start to identify within our roadmap what strategically do we need to align resources to. And sometimes when you look at those things, it allows you to start thinking about what things maybe we don't need anymore because right now it's not part of the experience that we're hearing from people. It's just not all that important anymore. Like when people used to say, you know, how much do you spend on textbooks? I'm throwing that out there because it's an easy one, but it's like we don't align our resources toward textbook purchases anymore, you know? Maybe something comes out about professional development for our staff that we need to do more PD. Maybe it's in areas of mental health or whatever comes out as that desired daily experience. Those are the things that as a board provide you a real roadmap as to where do we align our resources. So when our finance committee is talking about what things are important to us, what key initiatives are coming up, that's where we're going to make that alignment happen. I think there's a real cadence to that, and I think it's really helpful to know where we're headed. Because sometimes it feels like, you don't want to just sort of be buying the latest flavor that seems to be the craze, because that may not last very long. But if it's something that people have said, this is important to us as a community and we want to lift it up, well, then we're going to align our resources to it. So, yeah, good question. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Will you have enough information available for the finance committee planning the next year's budget as far as allocating our money for resources and
Yes, good question. So Amanda will bring you back, because as part of because we have to follow the fiscal calendar, this doesn't necessarily completely align with the fiscal calendar. So Amanda's going to come back to you on June 12th with a preliminary budget for next year. And when we say preliminary, it's not one that you're necessarily approving. What you approve is, this is what our best guess is. Now, what might happen between the time that prelim budget is considered and perhaps approved versus what we accept as the actual budget, there may be some changes within that that are reflective of the roadmap work we're doing. So it's not quite in cadence, because it'd be nice to have this all done for the prelim budget, but it's probably not going to work out that way. But you have, as a board, you'll have room for adjustments based upon new information that we might be getting throughout the summer. Yeah.
I have one more. So the daily experience, so the survey that went out, I know that you had mentioned that during your initial discussions, people were identifying which decade people were in.
Right.
Did the parents or the students, did they identify which decade that they were in to provide their daily experience back? Because again, I mean, I'm sure that, my in-laws, their daily experience, what they're expecting for the students may be significantly different than what my kids.
So what the one demographic factor we collected was where their children were currently attending, which gave us a feel for, was it kind of an elementary parent voice, or were we hearing more of a secondary? But we also have crossover, between both of them, which helps us identify, because obviously people are basing their responses on their most recent experience. And we heard some things, and I'll just give you a couple of anecdotes from the survey data from parents. We heard about distance learning, and we heard some of the foils of distance learning that weren't working very well, but we also heard about some of the things that parents thought, yeah, some of this wasn't so bad, even talked about, school calendars, which is something that I've lifted up to you before, that maybe we need to kind of rethink our school calendar based upon our most recent experiences. Now, that doesn't necessarily talk about a particular decade, but it does look at what's possible for the daily experience for our elementary students versus our secondary, or perhaps even both. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right,
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
good. June 12th. As we move on, the next step would be Item 7, which is general information, and 7A, which would be the enrollment information. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Elstad on that information as part of your packet? Seeing none, I'm going to keep moving on. Item 8, which starts off tonight with board forum, and Tim, I'm going to start with you because of a request that you're going to present to the board.
Right. So this morning I got an invitation from Lydia Yankee, who was the adult staff liaison to the Adult Learning Center people that presented last month. Apparently they had a great time telling us about their work, and they're hoping to learn more about the board. So they asked if one or more of us could come and meet with them before the next work session, which is the 10th. After I figured out my calendar, I realized that it would actually. So I've arranged to go there at 4:30 to 5-ish before our work session. So if anybody else would like to be part of that, we were all invited, but they just happened to go through me for some reason. But
That's great.
I don't know if you want more information, like you're interested, just shoot me a note and I'll send you the invitation.
So that would be 2 weeks from
2 weeks from
tonight.
tonight.
The 10th, is that what you said?
Yeah.
10th. And that was the group that was presenting to us.
Their virtual, yes,
And now they're turning the tables. They'd like to know more about board
yes,
stuff.
yes.
Very nice. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
And that time worked because you had said you had a conflict
Well,
later.
I was planning to be out of town because I didn't have the board meeting on my calendar because my son would be playing lacrosse. But since I realized I have a board meeting, I'm here. So I said I would join them with that. So yeah, if anybody wants to.
Yep, I responded to her as well.
Oh, she didn't tell me that she had sent it to other people.
Yeah, she had sent it to me just because I've taught through community ed, so then she
Okay,
reached
awesome.
out to me as well.
So
And then
we're
I
covered.
replied back and said, should I ask anybody? And they had told me she'd reached out to you. So
All right.
the two of us are at least on.
There you
All right.
go. Awesome.
Good deal. Tim, anything else?
That was all I had.
Jolene, anything for Board 4?
We had a very quick facilities meeting for the high school. We're kind of in transition right now. Groundbreaking's coming up. Plans are finalized. Bids have been awarded and waiting to move dirt. So still on time and on budget. So our favorite sentences.
Jolene, what's the date of that? Can you remind me?
6th, May 6th.
6, yes. Yeah.
Will we get more information on that, or are we
We
just?
got the.
You get a letter in the mail, and so please RSVP to Sarah. She's right over there. So just gonna be like, I'm in. That's fine too.
I'm hopeful that all of our board members can be present. One of the things we'd like to do, obviously, is there's some opportunities for photos and things like that. If I may, we have invited about 140 people from our community to be part of that, including those that were part of the planning committees, city council, county commissioners, other public dignitaries and things like that. So we're hoping, we're praying for good weather, but we do have a tent there, so because it's a rain or shine event. But we're just hopeful that we can do that. And I think a press release, if it hasn't gone out, is gone out. I see Ashley nodding her head that it's gone out. So we're hopefully we can make that into a nice event. We recognize this will be kind of a brief event. Then, of course, our grand opening of the new building will be a little bit more robust. So, yeah, thank you.
That's at 3:30, Nikki.
Thank you.
Yeah, 3:30 to about 4 or so.
I'm going to piggyback on Jolene's comments, and whatever I forgot, Eric will jump in as well. There's work that's still being done at the Owatonna Education Center, and that work will basically get finished up this summer, and that work is going to start next week as well, or 2 weeks from today as well. That fortunately is also on budget and appears to be very much on time. And the crews that are doing the work, the city and the state permits are all very much in process and well on their way. Did you have anything more?
Just that if you do drive by the site and see some small machines out there just doing further survey work on the land. Nothing for major ground moving, just
Yep.
double check and make sure where the tile lines and stuff like that are out there currently.
June 1st is the official start date, I think they said.
Yep.
All right, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Daniela, anything for board forum?
Not anything new, but the last weekend, like I told you guys, I was gonna go to that state convention for student council and NHS, and it was really fun. I got to make a lot of new friends. There was this nice keynote speaker, Ted Weiss. His speech was really fun to listen to, and we got to do a lot of like just small group discussions with a bunch of students from just all of these different schools, and like a couple topics that we would talk about are just like the way that we run a lot of events, the way we hold like voting, say for like homecoming or something like that. But then some like bigger topics that we talked about are like racial equity and like just like mental health, just at schools. I know like at one school there's like a mental health Monday, and they just leave a lot of really nice notes for students around the school. But then also there's like a calm room that a lot of high schools I've kind of noticed that have, and it's just a place where you can just kind of relax when you're having a really stressful day at school. And I know that at one school, they even brought in a psychologist to talk about like mental health and kind of just like learn more about it and kind of normalize it. But yeah, we just talked about a lot of new ideas kind of to bring back to our own school, which was nice. But yeah, not much other than that.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Nikki?
So I have a state board retreat this weekend, and in 2 weeks we have a working session. So we get to dive into mission statements and policies. So terribly exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I won't, I won't share the wealth of knowledge with you quite yet, but, look forward to it.
Lori?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, I didn't have anything beyond our,
Nothing more.
Deborah, anything?
Just a question. With the long distance learning and all this stuff because of the COVID, I was wondering about yearbooks. Is that something that's still taking place, and did they get one last year, the seniors that graduated? And
They did. And we have gone to more of a fall sort of handout of yearbooks because many times we don't get all of the spring activity stuff put into the yearbook until the summer. And so we typically so I think the plan right now for yearbook staff is to do something for next fall so that there'll be a handout of this year's yearbook. Yearbook is an important thing because it's really the only historical ledger we have of a given school year. And it's an important thing that we keep the yearbook going. And of course, we work with our local company, Jostens, with our yearbook. But again, it should be typically it's a late September, early October delivery. And then if we can't get them to our students that have departed as seniors, we try to get them, as best we can to send them out sometimes as well. So, yeah.
We will move on. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for any comments with regard to the administrative report.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to give you a quick update with COVID, which is something for the last 13 months we've been doing. I hope there comes a time when we don't have to talk about this anymore, but we still are. One of the things that I've heard in our community, we have about 200 students as of actually right now that are out. But I want to share with you, out of that, nearly 80% of the students that we have are close contact. I acknowledge the fact that it's getting more difficult as a close contact because we have some families that quite honestly have been at close contact quarantine 4 or 5 times this year, which is a real inconvenience to students, and it's not the way we want to have things happen. However, we are still getting guidance from the Department of Health around how we are to do close contact investigation and then the follow-up quarantine. I want to be real clear with our community that these are not local rules we're following. These are all coming from the Department of Health. Amy Jo Havelka, who's our district coordinator, our COVID coordinator, as well as our school nurse director for the district, has been working with nurses. We're trying to be logical and reasonable about how we do close contact investigations, but they still need to take place. Why? Well, you might have, if you heard about it already, but you may hear about it, is that there was a student from Southwest Minnesota, a student that was under the age of 10 that passed away, unfortunately, as a result of COVID. COVID's alive and well for kids. And so we still have to do our work. We have to be diligent in how we're contact investigating. Like I said, we try to be as logical and reasonable as possible when doing it, but we do recognize that it is a pandemic and we still need to work through this pandemic. We have about 6 weeks left of school. And so we're doing our level best to try to make sure that we follow through to make sure our students are all safe, because student safety has been and will always be our number one priority. So I want to make clear on that. The other thing on the other end, and while I recognize that vaccines are a choice, the local Mayo Clinic has now started to open up more vaccine possibilities for students ages 16 and 17. If a student is out there and they're 18 years old and want to get a vaccine, they don't even need an appointment anymore this Wednesday and Thursday at the Steele County Public Works Building. They can drive up, there's no appointment needed, and they can get their vaccine taken care of. Why do I urge this? Because we still have lots of great things forthcoming this year. We have a graduation. We have graduation parties. We have end-of-year sporting events. We have all sorts of things that people want to be together and be safe at. But within that, it's going to require, and maybe the vaccine is the choice that they want to make to alleviate close contact. Because remember, once a student has been vaccinated 2 weeks beyond their second shot, they are actually eligible that they do no longer need to do quarantine any longer. And that was based on the CDC's and Department of Health recommendation. So, a couple of things about COVID. We're still trying to persevere and make our way through. So far, so good. By the way, that number of 200 is not anywhere out of the ordinary with other school districts. In fact, quite honestly, we're doing much better. The really great thing is we're starting to see Steele County numbers come down again. What we thought was going to be a real surge has sort of topped off and is now started to head back in the correct direction for us when it comes to where we're seeing COVID in our community. So I'll pause on that thought and quickly shift to a legislative update. There isn't a lot to report to you other than the House and the Senate both passed their respective bills, omnibus bills for K-12 education. The House identified, because now the next step is they go to kind of a joint conference committee between the Senate and House. The House identified 5 appointees to that committee, and the Senate will do likewise. In the House, Representative Dabney, Representative Richards, Pryor, Hassan, and Ron Kresha. Representative Kresha are the 5 House representatives. The Senate was going to appoint their conferees today. I did not hear if they've made those appointments yet. Conference committee comes together and they start to really kind of pull out every part of both bills to see what things they can find agreement on and what things they still have yet to debate. There is some sort of trading that goes on here, which is pretty typical as part of this legislative action. And again, their work needs to be completed by Monday the 17th, which happens to be 3 weeks from today. And so we'll see where that lands. Hopefully, when I come back to you at our regular meeting in May, I have some good news to report to you about a legislative session that's been concluded and what some of the early legislative action is for and how it will impact our school district. So I believe that is all the legislative updates. And the last thing I wanted to lift up to you tonight was there was a request a while back about what sort of cybersecurity measures is our school district taking because of some of the things you've heard about different cyber attacks and things within systems. So Mike Halverson, our Director of Technology, put together a summary for you in your board packet about the different steps that we are taking as a school district. If you were to ask Mike about what we're doing for cybersecurity, he would tell you it depends upon the day. Because we continue to add and double down on efforts at times, particularly if we start to hear that a cyber attack might be coming. We take extra precaution, but things are changing. We had different sorts of softwares all the time that are helping to protect our data, because obviously student data is very important to us. We have to obtain it and to keep it, but we're doing our best to keep all of that data safe. So just want to make sure I lifted that up for you to consider or read through your board packet if you haven't already to see that as well. So that's all I have this evening.
Any questions? Okay. We will move on. Item 9 tonight is the consent agenda. Again, the quick reminder, we're approving the minutes from March 29th and April 12th, disbursement and personnel reports. Anybody have any reason to believe that we should pull any of these out? Vote separately. Okay. Short of that, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, this is a roll call vote.
Mark?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jelaine?
Aye.
Deborah?
Aye.
And I myself is an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10 tonight, we do need to take action on a couple of items. Item A, which would be the identified official. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad.
The first item within the board action requested area tonight is the Department of Education asked for a required annual designation of what they call it an Iowa, but that's an acronym for the Identified Official with Authority. And basically what this does is it allows me as your superintendent, based upon your approval, that I tonight get to authorize different sorts of reports that go through, also authorizing any funding requests, things of that nature. So it is something that is required to, and there's a special secure website that I can only access to approve those reports. So that's what you're asking to consider tonight.
Okay. With that, somebody that has access to the motion, would you be kind enough to introduce the motion for us?
I move that the board authorize Jeffrey Elstead to act as the identified official with authority, Iowa, for Owatonna Public School District 761.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B, as a resolution relating to termination, I would again turn things over to Mr. Elstad.
Yes, and we have Chris Peak, our Director of Human Resources, with us tonight. If you have any further questions about this, you were asked a while ago to consider this action. Now we've reached the point of resolution, which allows you now the opportunity for us to make those adjusted cuts based upon financial limitations, decreased student enrollment, return of leave for senior teachers and things of that nature, especially, and likewise with licensure status concerns that we might have. So this is a resolution tonight. This would call for a roll call vote tonight if you vote to approve this.
Questions? Hearing none, will one of you be kind enough to offer the motion?
I move that the board approve the resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of probationary teachers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, roll call.
Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item C is another resolution replacing teacher on unrequested leave. Mr. Elstad.
Yeah, so tonight what you are being asked to consider approval for is we offered up a supplemental document for tonight with the names of 4 individuals that are being put on unrequested leave of absence, I believe.
No, just.
My fault, I'm sorry, just one is unrequested leave of absence. The rest of them are non-renewals, which is part of our practice, given licensure and or other concerns we have within those personnel that were lifted up. So what you're being asked to look at in this item, I apologize, is the placing a teacher on unrequested leave of absence. They do have rights to a hearing within 14 days. If they don't have that request, then we offer the ULA is completed.
The staff name is listed in the motion. Does that need to be removed?
No.
No.
It can be public data, because last month we proposed it, this is placing.
Okay. Okay.
Good question. Any other questions? Jolene, if you have it up, would you read the motion?
I move that the board approve the resolution placing Martell Johnson on unrequested leave of absence.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric.
Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Last item, item D is gifts to the district. Mr. Elstad.
Yeah, so we have a number of gifts tonight, gifts totaling just $5,500, I believe tonight is our mark. In addition to the gift of an instrument that was given by the Moberg family, you'll see a varying group of gifts. I would call one out as that we had a gift of $3,300 from some of our Somali parents in the Owatonna School District that they wanted to provide a gift for the new high school. And so they pulled some money together, and you're being asked to consider approval of that gift this evening, along with others as well.
Questions? Would you be kind enough to offer up this motion, please?
I move that the board approve the resolution for acceptance of gifts as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Folks, it was a good meeting tonight. Appreciate your time. We will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good meeting. Thank you.